right, we'll go ahead and get started. Hello and welcome to the Leading Edge webinar series brought to you by the Master of Science in Organizational Leadership program and the Johns Hopkins University Office of Advanced Academic Programs. Today's event features a discussion with Colonel Deb Lewis on how to stress-proof your leadership and life for lasting success. My name is Peter Huggins and I'm the event producer. Please note today's event is being recorded and will be uploaded to the AAP YouTube channel under the Leading Edge playlist. During tonight's program, if you have any questions, please feel free to use the chat. It's going to be a very active and engaging program. With that, I'll turn the presentation over to our moderator, Dr. Francis Wu, Program Director and Senior Lecturer for the Master of Science in Organizational Leadership program.
Thank you, Peter. Good morning, afternoon, and evening, everyone, depending on where in the world you are calling in from. As faculty in the Masters in Organizational Leadership program at Johns Hopkins University, we are dedicated to developing leaders who navigate today's complex globalized world. We challenge our students to cultivate virtual, intellectual competence and practical skills, aiming for a world where human flourishing, peace building, and planetary health thrive. This is why we are excited today to present the Leading Edge Speaker Series lecture, Stress Proof Your Leadership and Your Life for Lasting Success. Colonel Deb Lewis is a true pioneer in leadership and resilience. As a member of West Point's first class with women, she broke barriers during her 30-year Army career, paving the way for thousands of women and men, commanding a $2.1 billion reconstruction effort in combat, and serving in the Joint Staff during 9/11. What I admire most about Colonel Deb Lewis is her character. She made personal sacrifices for her team's success, embodying the essence of selfless leadership. Now a globally recognized expert on mental toughness, she helps leaders transform stress into strength. Her strategies have empowered thousands across 135 countries to thrive under pressure and create lasting impact. It is an honor to welcome Colonel Deb Lewis.
Aloha, everyone. I just put on the chat. Please tell us where you're calling in from. I'm so excited. I see Gail here. I see Tammarie, and so many people are calling in. I have to start with thanking first Dr. Francis Wu and Peter, who started off this talk. A terrific team. You know, you want to have a dream team when you work with people, and they are absolutely it. And when we're done, I want you to never look at stress again in the same way. It's just something I am passionate about, that we look at stress as a negative. And I just want you, if you are big-hearted, and all of us have hearts, but are we big-hearted? We all want to take a look at stress in a way that's going to help make things better, not make them worse. And so I'm just really thrilled to be here. Now, looking ahead, I just want to say, I have to pause and say, there's a lot of pain going on around the world. I know you feel it. I know that you are aware of it. We are challenged like never before, but I've been here before. As Francis talked about, I've been here before. I've been in times, I'm sure you've been in times where, gosh, you wish that things would be easy, but maybe that might be boring. But right now, we are challenged in many, many ways. Everything from natural to man-made disasters to how people treat each other, all kinds of ways. I have one of our caregivers for my mother who has a little bit of dementia. She said she had 3 people die from her immediate family, and they all lived on the same street, and they died within a week. People just dealing with some really tough times. And so if it would be okay with everyone, I'd like to do a breathing exercise so we can all be present. I want you to offload all the stresses that you're facing right now, because this will be a one-time shot in this group with these amazing people in the audience who I already know, who are exceptionally gifted. Let's do a real quick breathing exercise. You're going to inhale relaxation, and you're going to exhale any worries that you have. Are we ready to go? Let's go. Inhale, relaxation. Exhale, worries. Inhale, relaxation. Exhale, worries. Inhale, relaxation. Exhale, worries. All right. I am so excited. I see even EJ Harold. Aloha, EJ from DC. So many people I would love to say hello, but let's keep going. So I want you to be present. That's why I did the exercise. It's hard to do. I know that I have a million things on my plate. I'm sure you do too. But we're going to focus not on fixing things. You know, people like to be fixers. And I came from an engineering background, and we love to fix things. Make them work and look back. But today what we're looking at is understanding it better so that we can make better choices. And if we can make better choices, then we want to make sure that we'll get better outcomes. And over time, we will get better outcomes. And so think about the group, and I want you to engage in chat. This is an admin piece. I want you to engage in chat because these people who are on the call are rock stars. I'm telling you right now. And if you engage in chat, if something pops in the head, we won't be able to discuss it till Q&A. But and the question should go to the question format. There's a question Q&A format. If you have a specific question, go there. But otherwise, just have a dialogue. If it pops something, if it triggers something in you, you've done a beautiful job in telling us. We've got people from all over, from Texas, LA, Charleston, Maryland, California, Manhattan, just all over the place. And so let's engage, let's have fun. And I promise to give you my best, and I want to hear from your best as well. I'm going to be talking about some strategies, some insights and tools. And in that discussion, recognize that there are going to be some things that are familiar to you, but I can assure you that we are not at least doing it or understanding it in a particular way, so we apply it. And so that's my hope today. So let me start off with a very important question. Can we go to the first slide, Peter? There we go. That's not, oh, sorry, second slide. That's the first slide. Second slide. Okay. What do these things have in common? Love, life, leadership. What do they have in common? I was just listening to an Ed Sheeran song, an Ed Sheeran photograph song about how love can hurt. Loving can hurt sometimes. Yeah. And then he says, but it's the only thing that makes us feel alive. Maybe some of you love music as much as I do. And yeah, all of these things. My journey, just to let you know, has been a rough one. I have learned all the lessons the wrong way the first time and then figured out, oh, that was important because it taught me things that I could use later. And so whether it's love life, and you'll find out I had 2 divorces, and now I'm heading into 26 years being married to a wonderful, wonderful man. Some of you know him. But there's a point that I was completely slammed to the ground. I didn't think I'd ever find love, and I didn't even want to get up. But I had a daughter to look out for, and I wanted to make sure I would take care of her. I'm sure you've been sucker punched in love too, some of you. Some have found true love, and you're on like 50 years or more of marriage. Isn't that great? Not all of us find that path. But life, what are things that you've done? Now, growing up, you'll see, I moved around a lot because my dad was in the military. But in life, being in the military, and some of you have been in the military or are still in the military, what do you get to do? A lot. You get to the top of the tower to the bottom of the tower, jumping out of perfectly good airplanes and doing all kinds of things exciting in life. And what about leadership? I was told at West Point, women shouldn't be in combat. You can't lead. You're not a leader, all that garbage, right? And then 26 years later, I am leading a $2.1 billion construction program in combat. The thrill of my life, and I hit my stride, even though it was some of the tough conditions that you can find. So have you figured out what do they have all in common? What do they have in common? Yes, they're all challenging. I want you to think of these 3 concepts in a different way. Think of them as, next slide, extreme sports. Can you relate to that? Can you relate to that? Okay, so here I am. I'm jumping. Now you're going to see I've been riding since I was quite little, jumping since I was quite little. But I'm riding that horse. Should I just go out there and do it like like Nike says, just do it. Well, if I had just done it, I'm sure that things would not have gone that well. I'm riding a horse I have never ridden before. Okay. And I was expected to take him over a course of fences and look good doing it. And I think they got the one shot there that really, I look good doing it. But you wouldn't know that I'd never done that before. And then if you look over as an extreme sport, you know, my husband, in his mid-50s, I want to encourage all of you that you can do things later on. What do you think about that? I go ahead and comment as you think about it. But my husband, he comes to me, and because I'm an engineer, he comes to me with that presentation of the map. And he's got this idea. He bought his bike 2 weeks ago, hadn't owned it since high school. And he buys this bike. And next thing I know, he wants to ride it for veterans, to support veterans and get messages out. And he's going to do it into all 50 states. Well, the first cut, it was 15,000 miles. Then it was 16,000 miles. Then it was 18,000 miles, all in 1 year. And he took 1 year to prepare for that. You don't just go to an extreme sport and do it. He researched as best he could, something not done before, not the way he was doing it. And then he practiced. And he figured if he could do an Ironman, which he had never done before, he had never done that before, then he would go and do that, and that would prepare him. And we did it in 1 year. He did that much mileage. I did 26,000 miles in an RV, never owned or driven an RV before my life. And then at the end, he did a 222-mile ride in 1 day. Never done. So trying something new, yes, you can do at every age. So let's go to the next slide. So let's talk about you. Let's just do the first line. What's one thing you want? And if you don't know something specific, what is it you want to feel? And then we'll focus in on today. But what is it that you want? What's one thing you want to achieve? And because if you have no goals, you won't have any energy to achieve them. Okay, let's go to the next slide, Peter. These are some ideas for today. I'm not seeing any answers on here on the chat. Would you please share? What is it, the one thing? What's something that you would love to get out of today? You signed up. I would love to see. What is it that you want to sign up for today? That would be awesome. Thank you, Clover. You want to care for yourself. Boundaries, better confidence. Okay. Yep, because life's going to throw you sucker punches. And if you have a big heart, you will be attacked. I just want to prepare you for that. All right, let's keep going. You can keep signing it up, doing it on the chat. Tell us what you want. There's someone in the room guaranteed who can help you with that. If not what you're listening to today, someone who want to assess that and help you better. Okay, next slide, Peter. The big elephant in the room, what's that? Stress, okay? Now, I always wondered, maybe you wondered too, always wondered how you can have two different sets of people in identical circumstances. One pair blows up and the other pair is laughing about it. What's the difference? Today we're talking about the unhealthy piece. The healthy piece, bless your hearts. If that's you, wonderful. You have done so much in your life to take potentially troublesome situations and done so much with that. But unhealthy, this is the place where we have the most chance of helping other people, especially ourselves, right? You know when it's going unhealthy, but stress, when we're going to talk about in the next concept, you have this spectrum, unhealthy to healthy. Let's go to the next slide, Peter. So this is a term that's not widely understood or widely used. I developed it in frustration to say, how do you describe what it is that we do? But under unhealthy stress, this is the place where so much goes sideways. And then on the healthy stress, if any of you are athletes, you know, I really encourage you every day to do something for your body to keep it in shape, because you really, it is a physical piece to this stress, whether it's healthy or not. You want to be in good shape for that. But on the other end, why is it that when I went to West Point, I practiced, you know, I thought, okay, we're going to go on runs. In formation, I practiced 1.5 miles. The first run was 2 miles. Believe me, when they announced that it was going to be 2 miles, I about had a heart attack. Okay. And then within the first half mile, my roommate dropped back. Okay. So now you know it really is bad. Okay. And then I don't know if Cammie's on here, Camille Brasso is on here. she was in my formation, and I looked over at her, and remember that picture of the healthy stress where people are laughing and smiling? That was her. She was, and I'm looking and I'm thinking, this is terrible. And I'm looking at her and she's having a great time. I thought there was something to it. And so stress can be like a flame. You know, a flame can help you. It can heat you. For those of you who are in the cold, you know, it help you bake your food, all kinds of things. But when those embers get away, it can be awful because it can burn everything to the ground, right? And so there are times in our lives where stress is going great, and then one thing happens and it all just blows it apart, right? I'm sure you felt that way, right? Have you? And I know I have, for sure. Usually when I'm doing 100 things and then one toxic person comes into the picture and it's like, oh my gosh, I got to go deal with this. But if you think about the blankets that they now have, they have these fireproof blankets. Wouldn't it be nice that as it started to get away from us, we had tools and strategies and things to be able to put over that situation and get it under control? And in this picture on the right, that's exactly what happened. This picture on the right, he had just refused to shake my hand because I was a woman. Now, I've been told this could happen in Iraq, and it happened exactly 2 times. But what am I doing? Am I all upset? No, I'm smiling. Smiling is a powerful tool when you use it appropriately, not like a dog that's going to bare its teeth to go after you. But in this case, it was a welcoming smile. It was an okay smile, and you can see how he reacted. So what we're trying to do today is come up with these strategies and other things to talk about. But we have to go to the next slide, because this one is where it all began with each of us. With each of us, thank you for those who are talking in the chat. Go ahead. This is how I grew up. Okay, Army brat. We didn't have social media. So every time we moved, we lost all our friends. I have one friend before 8th grade, one friend who I still stay in touch with. Other than that, nope, broke away. But what I did get to do is I got to ride at a very young age. As you can see there, I was the center of attention. Is anyone else I know has older brothers and you're the youngest? That's a special, special place. Anybody out there have that you're the baby of the family? Okay. I was lucky. And I was the only girl. And so my dad never told me that things were for girls or things were for boys. And I didn't realize it until I was at West Point, but riding is one of those gender neutral sports. Doesn't matter what gender you are. The horse doesn't care other than if you ride them well. And so that was something I could carry forward. Swimming, that takes a lot of work. I didn't do that at West Point. I was co-captain of the swim team, but I didn't want to continue it. Why? Because it was stressful and it took a lot of energy, physical energy out of me. But my memories the psychologists say we have formed our habits and belief by the time we're 7. The majority, not everyone, but the majority of them. Now, can you imagine that? If I had what many kids today, they have to, sometimes by necessity, but you have to look at how can you bring this forward? Like, don't talk to strangers. Don't ever talk to strangers. You know, to me, strangers are just friends I haven't met yet. And so I was able to make friends each time I moved, and I got better at it and able to be in situations like today where I can take a look. We're gonna copy the chat and I can see, oh man, that's my new friend. I want to talk to them. I may not know you, but I love what you said. So I just want you to think about, if we formed all these beliefs, maybe that's why you're having anxiety when you go to networking meetings. You know, you don't know, and you may not be able to find out, but at least understand the sensation that when you have that anxiety that's not serving you, that's unhealthy stress, and we ought to be able to do something about that. Okay, next slide, please. Did you know that questions are the ultimate empowerment tool? Doug Krug taught me that. He wrote the book Enlightened Leadership. I'll tell you what, it's important to understand that, and this isn't the best question, I'll say it. This isn't the best question I want to ask, but it is something that I want to pay attention. If we're going to focus on unhealthy stress, One of the things is that people often get in our way. I call it people stress. You have a goal, you want to achieve something, and then you have these great plans and people blow it up. So what is it? Go next slide. Nobody's guessing. Keep guessing on the panel. There we go. Poor stress skills. I give this up, but what does that mean? Okay, poor stress skills. So you can be the nicest person in the world, and you can want to go and accomplish so much because you can help, right? But if the other people have poor stress skills, they're going to react to you in a particular way. And I had it time and time again, because they have to know you care before you try to do anything in helping them. And I care so deeply about helping you to handle things so that poor stress skills are not going to undermine. And you'll go, oh yeah, that person has it. That person has it. So what does it look like? You know these, but you have to understand, I want big flashing lights when you see these, either in yourself or in other people. Go ahead, next one. Everybody get these? Survival mode strategies, right? And if we have time in the bonus questions, I'll talk about vibration, because there's energy that's associated with each of these. But these is the default when things happen. When things happen, we'll fight, we'll flight, or we'll shut down. What's the emotion attached to it? Fighting, anger, usually. Flight could be overwhelm, but oftentimes it's fear of something. What is it? And then shutting down. Imagine having someone in the room who has the very answer, like in this room of people who are on this call today. You're in the room and you could have the answer to whatever we're struggling with. But if you're shut down, the light is off. The light is turned off. And that can be apathy, or it can just be overwhelm as well. But being hard on yourself, yes, Don, being too hard on yourself. What is that? What is that like? You could do all of those things. You get angry at yourself. I think we're hardest on ourselves. Don't you agree, Don? I think we're hardest on ourselves because I have very high standards and want to get this right. But these are the ways that you're going to see it, and they're all unhelpful strategies. If you have a goal and you use any one of these strategies, I can tell you time and time again what's going to happen. You are not going to get what you want. In fact, it's like running the other direction. You're going to be going the other direction. People are going to encourage you to do these things. Oh, that's terrible. You should fight them. I'm telling you, if that's your only strategy, it's a losing strategy. And if you keep quiet and think, Jan, if you keep quiet and think, as you're saying there, thank you for saying that, because it is shutting down, because the thing is I understand why you do it. And it's up to leadership. And what we're here to talk about as well is leadership. My job as a leader is that, okay, at the end of my discussion with everyone else, I'm going to say, I realize it's getting late, but I really want to hear what you have to say. I think everybody does. You've been thinking about this topic. Would you mind sharing it? Imagine asking that question instead of, anybody got a question? Worst question in the world. Okay, let's go next slide. This is a fun one, but it's also a confession. When I went to West Point, I think you got a little sense. I was not the top athlete. Okay, my grades, there'd be others. My roommate, for example, she was shorter than I was. I'm 5'5", and she would do like 13-minute 2 miles. It was amazing. Not me. One of the things that the women had to face is this obstacle course. This is a schematic of an obstacle course. And so we had to pass it, and women had never done it, and it required a tremendous amount of upper body strength. Tremendous amount of upper body strength. And so when we did it, it took me, I'm very competitive, as I think I mentioned. I wanted an A, and I got it in my 4th year. Okay, it took me a long time. Now, what I pulled down for you to take a look at 1 minute is one half of her run is Cadet Elizabeth Bradley. She's 42 years after me. Okay, 42 years. And I want you to see what she does. Please watch with us. Hopefully you're not on it. You can see the picture.
1, go!
11 obstacles. The first one, you're crawling on the ground. She's crawling on the ground. And then the next thing she goes to are the tires. I don't even remember that. That must have been an easy one. But look at her go over that vault, okay? over top. Now this is a ledge. You have to get your foot up to swing there. Trust me, that wasn't easy. Some people had a fear of heights. Watch what she's doing here. She's going down. These are H bars. Yes. I think she must be a foot taller than me. That's what I'm going to stick with. Okay, going through the tire, feet first, upper body. We had parallel bars, so it used a lot more upper body strength at that event. The wall. I thought that was 10 feet tall. It turned out to be my easiest obstacle. Now what she's doing is the overhead monkey bars. Takes a lot of upper body strength. And now watch her technique. This was my nemesis. This was the thing that stopped me for 4 years in my age. Okay, that's it, Peter. Thank you. Next one. Everybody enjoy that one? I'm not seeing any comments. What'd you think about Elizabeth, huh? Yeah. And the really cool thing about Elizabeth is not only did she set the record for the women, she maxed the men's PT tests, I think by 6 seconds, 7 seconds. So she wasn't the fastest as the guys, but she maxed the men's test. And so part of the thing of people you will see who are different, how often have they been allowed to do something? And then give them, there you go, EJ. Yeah, I remember that the track, for those of you who don't know, it was so harsh. It felt like someone was stabbing you in the throat with a knife. It was that dry. But what do you see? You know, when things happen to us that get in our way, you know, what do we see? Do you love an obstacle? Probably not. What about challenges? Do you love a challenge? That attitude is so important. And I have if we have time, 3 keys to high performing teams. We can talk more about that. So let's go to the next slide. There's going to be some other pressures that you get. You ever had someone who gave you time pressures? They tell you, okay, you got to get it done, but I need to go talk to somebody. You don't have time to go do that, right? Or money, or, you know, they say they're going to give you a shortcut. These strong personalities can push you. Oh, not there yet. These strong personalities can push you in order to do something. And I hope you understand this, never mistake motion for action. When you yell at someone, they will move. But when you work with them, you can find out, hey, there's a better answer. And instead, like an engineer, if I blow something up, someone's going to have to rebuild it if it's needed. And that takes a lot of time and money you may not have available. And so when you're looking at these challenges, that's something that you want to have that perspective and understanding that people are going to pressure you. That's the complicating factor of when you have challenges, is to look deeper. And we'll talk about that. Okay, so next slide, please. Now, EJ, this will probably bring you trauma too. This was first day when you come to West Point on the left-hand side is coming, or Navy boot camp or anywhere, right? Robin, oh, I know that dry air, right? But this is where they start screaming and yelling at you. And while my dad was stern, he didn't scream and yell at me. And I had people yelling at me for quite some time. And I was often in trouble. In the other picture you see there, me getting fitted for the pants, they took the men's pants, the same quality of the fabric. Unfortunately for us women, someone said, let's give you color coordinated zippers. And they were polyester. Guess what happened in the first day? Probably not even the first morning. I think I put them on and they broke. The zippers broke, and we were supposed to swear an oath raising our right hand. And I had to get in trouble asking my squad leader, you know, sir, not yes, sir, no, excuse, sir, I do not understand. I had to say, sir, do you happen to have a safety pin? Not a good scene. So people who mean to help you could also complicate things and give you challenges. But I did get chances, as you see right next to that, my dad pinning my airborne wings on me at night. And then we see the picture with the gentleman, the governor of Al-Anbar province, and I'm smiling. You know what my interpreter told me? He said the reason he wouldn't shake my hand was because that meant he was married to me, or I was a member of his family. And so having that was not something yeah, trust me, I was happy. You see my husband there, who we've been married a long time, now live in Hawaii. We're very, very happy. And so we have a lot of living to do. And each one of these, you know, when you have a picture, that's the smile you see. You have the smile there. But the thing is that what's behind the picture? What was all the garbage that went on before in the picture? And so I want to talk about now the next slide, which is the survival mode sparks and triggers. These are things to be very cognizant of. So we talked about what survival mode thinking is, but what sparks those? Well, sometimes it's unmet expectations. Like imagine my panic attack when I found out we were going to go 9 football fields more than I had practiced in formation, which made it even harder. But it can be with a spouse that you want someone to be overjoyed and their face looks like, oh my, they're not happy, but maybe they're thinking about something else, but that may spark you to want to fight or be upset or shut down. And then one of the biggest sparks ever, which is something I just want you to think about. When you go negative, this is what I've learned. When you go negative, and sometimes it's just a hint. If you're a positive person, it's just a hint of going negative can set people off. But when you go negative, you're breaking that trust of that relationship and you're shaking that foundation, maybe never to repair it again. You may only have one chance in order to do that. And so these going negative and unmet expectations are really, really tough. And you have to be prepared for them, because one thing I want each of you to understand, you don't have to enable it and you don't have to feed into it, because that is just like mirror neurons can affect you. If you do nothing, you will be affected deeply by it. I used to think I could stand up in front of people and protect them from someone who was yelling. And then 2 hours later, I was a mess and I couldn't figure it out. So I came up with some strategies and some things to keep me in line to know, hey, I have a choice. I can do something different. Next slide, please, Peter. And I call it armoring up. This is the physical world. And like I said, let's talk about vibration, hopefully in the Q&A. The physical world is something that I want you to think about, because in the physical world, the helmet, like Athena's helmet, she was a goddess of war, goddess of wisdom. You want to protect your wisdom, okay? I have a helmet. I'm going to protect my wisdom, and I will wear this in order to stay protected. Because if I use my wisdom, I have a better chance of making a better choice about something, even if someone ticks me off, okay? Even if they just make me crazy. And the shield, when I have my shield, I recognize those mirror neurons, and I am trying to come up with something that will shield me, like Aikido, right? Aikido doesn't wait. That's a martial art that you don't wait and you stand there for someone to attack you. No, you step to the side. You let that energy go by you. And then the sword, it's not to skewer somebody. What do you think about that? It's not to skewer somebody, but know that if you have a loving heart, you will be attacked. People will yell at you for all kinds of reasons. And so you need to be able to deflect those attacks when they come at you. Okay? When those attacks come at you, it could be a question. You could say, wow, that I didn't know that you were so, and you could just come into a question, ask them a question, put them off guard, work on that. But that's one way that you can do that. Next slide, please. Now let's talk about the inside, the leader's role and stress levels. Because when the going gets tough, I always say the tough get going. But the thing is that for a leader, you have to know what your role is. And sometimes we think we have to do 100 things at the same time. But I promise you that if you focus on what's on these stairs, this will help you get that environment to be creative, supportive, and helpful. Because when things get tough, if it's easy, you can bring out the best in everyone, right? You can do your best, you can give your best. But if it starts getting tough and you got unhealthy stress kicking in there and you're starting to feel it in yourself, at least be your best when you're stressed, right? Be your best when you're starting to get stressed. Because there's a lot of times people make the excuse, well, I'm going to snap at you because I'm stressed. That's not a good reason, because now it gets to be that effect. So the final one is you're going to go from a negative space to a positive place fast. That's the upper one. When you know you've been knocked down, you got to figure out how not to show that negativity, but go to that positive place. Whatever, could be a song, could be a thought, could be a picture, something to center you back to your wisdom and be able to give more. Okay, next slide, please. So as a leader, I didn't really want to be a leader. I didn't want to be the number one leader. I'll say that. I wanted a good number one. Unfortunately, there's a few and far between. And so I found out that as a leader, I have an advantage that I can help other people. And I wanted to help other people. And so in this case, you see the picture. When people are struggling, you can come in and perhaps give a perspective. And I will tell you that no matter how desperate a situation is, there's always leverage. There's always something can be done. Now, it may not be your idea. It may be this brilliant, if I teed up some questions for this brilliant group that's listening today, we could make a huge difference in any scenario you can think of. But you have to work together and you have to understand each other. So let's go to the next slide. Anytime I talk to people, I just want this to be in the back of your mind. I could be so certain that I'm right. And is it more important to be right or make things better? And so I get off of being right. I like to be right, but it's better if I just want to make things better. And I also understand that I don't have the whole picture. So if I want to do it, what I'm suggesting could be completely wrong. Like with my daughter. Some of you may know her. With my daughter, I wrote an article. It said, want to give your daughter advice? Stop. Do this instead. Okay? Because I don't know the whole picture. And for those loved ones, they may not respond well when you want to give that advice, right? You're telling them what to do and as if you're judging that. And so keep in mind, next slide, Peter, how good is your information? You know, think about the stars. We only know and measure about 5%. 95%, that could be in there the most important things we need to know. The same with our brains. They've been studying our brains forever. But the fact is we maybe only can measure about 5%. And that may not be what's most important. The same with, I'm sure some of you, if you've ever been in any kind of leadership position, someone presents you a problem. Could you please comment on this one? Been presented a problem, then you find out it isn't exactly what they said. And the other thing, when people want to rush you, they'll say, well, you know, I say, I want to share this with someone because I know they have thoughts here. And they'll say, we don't have time. But in the Army Operations Center, we had this sign, who else needs to know? And find that out, because what's below the surface, like this iceberg represents, that's usually 10 to 90%, at least 90% is below the surface. Who else needs to know may bring some important information to your situation. Yes, Robin, trust but verify. What is the bigger picture? Do you understand the bigger picture? Your short answer could make it horrible in the long run. And I have, as Gail, thank you, Gail. Yeah, have you taken one person's stuff and run with it? Yes, and fallen right and smashed right into that wall when you found out more. So next slide, please. You know, if we want a better world, we're going to have to help people make better choices. And so identifying the stressors that I talked about, which is just the beginning, it's the foundational ones that people forget all the time. You want to then be able to transform that healthy stress quickly, not languish in it, not languish in that negativity, and transform it into something healthier. And then, only then, will people be making better choices. And so, next slide, please. Thank you, Anne. Yep. Listening. Yep, you have to listen. Absolutely. But the better you get at handling stress helps everyone. Helps absolutely everyone. Because we know that stress can tear you down or build you up. And without the stress proofing your life to better handle the unhealthy piece of it, which is where we focus today, you don't get to choose which, because that's going to happen. I always love to add in, you have to keep a good sense of humor. Does everyone keep a good sense of humor? I mean, you know, in most trying times, these are serious subjects, and I hope that wasn't a downer on it. But you have to keep a sense of humor, because if you don't, it has to be appropriate. I understand. These are my guys from Iraq after I came home for the one time that I left the unit to come home for leave. And they sent me these to remind me they were taking care of things while I was gone. Okay. You got to work with people who do have a sense of humor. These guys were amazing. I loved my team in combat. All of my members of the team in combat were just extraordinary. Okay. Next slide. So now we're going to the Q&A. And next slide, please.
Thank you so much, Colonel Deb Lewis. So audience, please feel free to submit your questions to the Q&A section of our webinar, and we will do our best to have Colonel Deb Lewis address your questions.
Okay, Anne asked a question. I can start with hers.
Yes, please.
Okay, Anne, I hate it too when people give me advice, especially if I'm not asking for it. But the thing is they see a gap. People are hardwired, and I think I said this, but I really want to say this. It's not our fault that we go to survival mode thinking. We are hardwired to do it. And the other thing we're hardwired to do is to judge quickly and harshly. Okay. And then we're hardwired, I think, because we have a heart, we want to help. Okay. But we're judging harshly. And so they don't have a view like the iceberg. They don't have a view of everything that's going on. So they're going to want to give you advice because they think that's going to help you. And the whole thing is I hope that in the future, when you focus on it, because if you hate it, which I know that I fall into that too, is love them because thank you for wanting to help me. You just have to say, thank you for wanting to help me. Let me think about that. Or, you can come up with a bunch of different ways. Or sometimes they'll say something and say, I wonder why you would say that. And then you find out, oh, when I was back in the day, this thing happened to me and I want to make sure it doesn't happen to you. I had someone be violently against what I was trying to do because they had been burned by somebody else. And so sometimes you don't know what's going on. And then you ask them a question and say, well, you seem to know a lot about that subject. Would you mind telling me how you got it? And then you get a little more and maybe you will learn something about it. But yeah, I get it. But that's being triggered. Whenever we don't like something, remember that's the unmet expectation. We expect people to say, oh, you're doing wonderful, and isn't that amazing? I'm so happy. No, they don't do that. Sorry. they're gonna judge you. Okay, let's go to Whitney, if that's okay. I see Whitney's question. How do you develop a team that values humor? I think I don't have a final answer for that, but what it makes me think about is that first, the team has to trust you. They have to trust you because there are things that will interrupt your scenario. So if you don't mind, Whitney, I want to go to the 2 toxic stress triggers because those are the things that you can have humor, but if it goes in a direction that's toxic, then it's not humor. It's something that will do it. So Peter, can we go click on the toxic stress triggers and go to those slides? No, not that one. Keep going. If you clicked on the actual, when you click on the word, it would have taken you to the slide. Keep going. Let's go do the toxic. We can talk about the other ones later. Vibration, I do want to get to that if we can. Keep going. Okay, so survival mode, we talked about that. Okay, the first one I call the cockroach attack. Okay, the cockroach attack is that person who's yelling in a meeting. Whitney, have you ever had that? You can go ahead and chat with me as we go through this. But if you have a yeller in your group, some people have grown up with yelling and they feel that you have to get them, and that's just the way I am. But they don't understand how that affects the group. So if anybody has yelled at people in the group, I'm not saying that they don't get upset. I had someone, we had a way that we threw paper wads, and people would throw the paper wads if it was a negative comment, but it made everybody laugh. Right? Made everybody laugh. You have to come up with a technique that helps that. But one person came in and he just wanted to yell, but he didn't want to disrupt the group, so he dumped the whole bucket on his head and said what he wanted to say, but no one felt that it was yelling at him. But the cockroach attack, what do we know about cockroaches? If the toxic negative energy gets out there, it multiplies, it'll come back on you, it's icky, but it won't kill you. Next slide. The one that's worse is the termite invasion. And Peter, when we're done, you can click on termite invasion word and it'll take you right back. The termite invasion are those snarky little comments, which people act like they're humorous, but that's not humor. It's like, Whitney, why did you say that? That's so stupid. or something like that. Ha, 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 ha. That's not humor, okay? I don't call that. That's a termite invasion. And over time, those snarky little comments will bring your organization down because people will have enough. And I would stop my meetings when these things happen. And I would repeat back without any emotion. I just say, Whitney, you said this. Would anyone else like to comment? And then you get the humor. Trust me, you get the humor then from everybody else going, oh my gosh, that was so mean, or something like that. But there are different ways that you can do it. But if you don't guard against these negativisms that come at you, if you don't address them in the group, then you will not be able to have truly safe humor, safe humor. So I hope that helps a little bit. Okay, so if you click on termite, there you go. Jasmine, not being stressed and working with someone who's negatively reactive with any project suggestions I provide. Well, Jasmine, that is a challenge, isn't it? I'm sorry for my humor, but I have been there too many times. They will negatively react with any project suggestion. I'll go back with when I talked to Anne. Most of the time, you have to understand that people do not have their values posted on their forehead, okay? There are some people who, like most of us, I think here, who care about dealing with stress in a very productive, positive way, that we care about other people. That's our value. Service. I live life to the fullest with love in service. That's my focus. And so my husband's. But there's a lot of people that's about what's in it for me. Okay. And I can't tell with any particular person where they are. Now, we used to do the DISC assessment, and that helped one understand behavioral styles, but it also highlighted people's values, which if you have any kind of diagnostic, it kind of is a label, but it's not a label. At least you understand what they care about, or you can just ask them, what's most important to you on this project? If you ask questions, you could ask powerful questions, and you could still have you, here's another one. I have a dear friend who gives me an edit. Maybe this helps too. Jasmine, if I said to you, have you thought about blah, 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 blah. I'm sure you thought about this. What do you think? Sometimes it's putting it so it's their idea. If you can do that, that also helps, because truly you just want things to be better, I'm guessing. And they're just people who are hardwired to negatively react to anything and consider it an attack. And it's like the obstacle course. Come up with a way. I'm throwing the wall in front of you. I'm confident that you're going to figure out, there's a way, you got leverage, you can figure out how to get around that. Does that help at all, Jasmine? I hope. Okay. Any other questions? We don't have any other questions? Okay. Here's something I want to, in the time that we have, let's flip to the, let's do the vibration first, and then I'd like to do what people love the most, and that's the law of vibration. Oh, here, Robin. I'm going to do this with vibration because that helps too. Okay, did you feel pressure to be a trailblazer? I didn't select it, but I looked at what we would do, and I wanted to do that. And if I wanted to do that, I didn't. When you're doing things for the first time, I just looked around, I'd be the only woman. And then they'd figure I was just different because I was the only woman. But it really had to do with my values and my behavioral style. And I also, believe it or not, was a threat to a lot of people, because if they were bad actors and bad behaving, I was so curious, okay, what's going on with this person? How am I going to turn them around? And I have a shirt in back, and it says, underestimate me, that'll be fun. Okay, we talked about how do you have value humor. Have your own quotes to value humor, Robin. They're going to tell you because you're a woman. And said, oh, really? And usually, how do you get it done? You just do it. You just get it done and do it, and just say, oh, okay. Really? Sometimes like talking to a pet. Oh, these people are going to be wanting to attack you, but you can't do the negativity back. You have to come up. And so when someone says it, I'm either going to dodge to the right or I'm going to put my shield up whenever I'm in front of that person, especially if they're negative. I might even put my hand on my heart to protect my heart because they're being just idiotic, right? But I'm going to get that gleam in my eye, and that's usually why I get in trouble. I get a smirk on my face, but I would usually just get it done. That's how you work past these people. And I'll have to tell you, some of the hardest people at West Point against the women coming, who some companies wanted to drive them out, when they were there, they're the ones that had daughters who then attended West Point. It was karma at its finest. They would have them go do it. And then, like I showed you, doing Elizabeth, doing the obstacle course so beautifully and maxing the men's PT test. I knew it could happen all along. And they told us we couldn't measure it athletically, and yet she did. Okay, vibration. I want to give you a little quick tutorial on vibration, if I may. David Hawkins, I didn't understand law of vibration is a primary law. We talk about the law of attraction, right? And that's the secret and all that other stuff gets it. But really, the law of vibration is fascinating to me. And what that basically tells us, and these are things that are measured, is that take a look at the scale there from shame all the way to enlightenment. What we're doing today is enlightenment. And I hope it excites you as much as it excites me. Okay? And the sad thing is if I told you, remember the unmet expectations? If something doesn't happen the way that you think, that unmet expectation, where do women go? Okay? Where do men go? Let's look at the bottom of the scale. How many men go to shame to explain something that didn't happen the way they wanted? Okay? The answer, research tells us, is 15 to 20%. 15% about for men. What is it for women? They've measured it, and apparently it's 80% of women go to shame-based meanings to explain things that didn't happen the way that they wanted. Okay, you can watch it when you're watching Dancing with the Stars or some of the other ones. Some of the women, that's what happens. Not all, okay, not all, but some. Remember, it's not 100%. Okay, but look where the vibration is on shame. And if you want more joy and you want more love, look at the vibration that you want to be at, okay? Reason, acceptance, you got all that, but the best one to be at is 500 and above is what they say to bring into your life. So if you're emanating all those other negative things, remember we talked about survival mode thinking, where is that? Apathy, shutting down, fear, running away, anger, fighting, they're all much, much lower. And you can get by, or suffer, but you're not in the flow and you're not helping yourself. So I just think that's so powerful for us to understand and be able to help other people. Okay, any other questions? All right, here we go. Does shame-based, thanks Anne for asking again, shame-based explanations mean feeling like problems? Yes. It's something I did wrong. Whereas the other option is, what do I need to do differently to get a different outcome? It's crazy that is, but I feel it. I know it. I've lived it. That's my hardest under stress, is not to go there for women, especially for me. I had to, especially being the trailblazer, because if something didn't work the way I thought, and then people, of course, are going to pounce on me and tell me, oh yeah, you're just a woman, that's why you couldn't do it. I'd be stewing like the obstacle course, like the rope. I made it up the rope the second year, and then I promptly, when I grabbed it, my fingers cramped and my feet cramped, and I fell all the way down. Luckily, I didn't break anything, but the time penalty happened, and no, I didn't get an A then. So anyway, so more things. But yes, shame-based explanations, that's exactly what it is. Yeah. Any other things? Let's see. 10-second reset tool. I think we have enough time. Let's go there. Okay. I gave you the really short breathing exercise, but in truth, this is step 1 of 5 steps I do under extreme stress. and the unhealthy stress, our breathing is affected. They say our breathing, even reading email, can be affected, and we get really shallow. But if I'm late for a meeting and I'm driving my car and I don't want an accident, I do this thing called the waterfall method. And it's about breathing in 3 seconds using a wonderful device that we have been gifted, is our nose. And that brings in oxygen to oxygenate our brain. And we breathe in through our nose 3 seconds, and we breathe out 7 seconds from our mouth. And we pretend it's like a waterfall, the power of a waterfall, flushing all that goo and garbage out of our bodies. And so if I can tell you, just like when your phone acts up, in 10 seconds, you can reset yourself. And I've done it in presentations. I've ordered myself to breathe. In fact, sometimes, for those of you who've been in the military, that might work for you. But I had to do it because I could tell my heart was pounding out of my chest. What do you do? But breathing in 3 seconds, try it through your nose, out through your mouth, seconds. This is the one that the purpose of this one, there are many ways to breathe. The purpose of this one is to reset you quickly when you're in unhealthy stress and move you to healthy stress. You can do all the other breathing techniques later, but this one can pull you out of it because it's flushing all those toxic thoughts that you have and push it out of you. Okay. Any more questions? I don't see any more questions. What other things? Yeah, I don't think we can go 3 keys to high performance. We'll just look at that, which you can use this in evaluation. Number 1 is attitude. I call it my ABS model. Think of how you can take a pounding. Attitude, behavior, and standards. You want to build a strong team, then you need to make sure, like this Venn diagram, what's the center sweet spot? Is that they have the best attitude, they have the behavior that follows with it, and your standard. I've had people that their standards are super low, they can have a great attitude, doesn't work. If one of these are out of whack, it does not work. Okay, let's go back. If you go on the title, it'll take you right back, Peter. Okay. Let's see, I'm not seeing any more questions. I think I can go ahead and today what we did is we recognized and we understood some key stressors in our lives, and hopefully helping you be able to transform and know the importance of transforming unhealthy to healthy stress, and to help you bounce back quickly from setbacks. We could talk all day on every slide. We don't have that, but I will tell you that you can have the highest IQ, you can have the best leadership training and the sharpest skills, but if you can't handle stress, all of it falls apart in the moments that matter most. And I hope that today will get you started on thinking on more ways that you can pull yourself out of stress and move forward. So I see we just hit the time. Thank you. Thank you so much, my dear friends. What else do you have, Francis? Did you have anything else you wanted to say? We'll wrap up.
Thank you, Colonel Deb Lewis, for a wonderful presentation. I know our audience are encouraged and will continue to be encouraged by your strength and your sharing. So thank you so much.
Thank you all for being here. Love to you all. It's a tough world. You're going to get kicked around, but I am confident you're going to pick yourself up and be able to make magic happen as we've been able to do today. And please look at the names, save the chat so that you can do it. And the replay, because I went through it pretty quickly, the replay will be available in about a week. So thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Francis Wu, and your program, and Peter for being there for me. Thank you.